Hi, this is Patti Sheeley with Big Fluffy Pat Today, and today we're going to talk about consider the source, but of what? And the reason why I say that is when we're in weight management, there are so many things that we have to consider that if we understand where the idea or the food or whatever came from, it really helps a lot with determining whether the message is valid or not. And let me just give you one example. Um, the message, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And if you don't eat breakfast, breakfast gets your metabolism started for the entire day, and you'll do better, you'll lose more weight, all that if you eat breakfast and then very frequently throughout the day. And that's a very common message that I grew up hearing, and I've tried to apply it on many occasions. And at least for me, my personal experience has been, well, guess what? Yeah, breakfast is a good meal to eat, and I like to eat breakfast. But then if I keep snacking throughout the day, I end up eating too many calories, and although I might be burning a few more calories, I'm consuming more food than I'm burning. It doesn't work. And whenever you consider the source of the saying, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, the people who came up with that idea are actually cereal companies. Now let me think about this. Could a cereal company possibly have a motive other than my health for motivating me to want to eat breakfast every day? Now, I am a breakfast girl. I had breakfast this morning. I have breakfast many, many days. But whenever I'm trying to lose weight, there are days that the best way I can restrict my calories is by going without breakfast. And in fact, there are some studies that show that if you do some intermittent fasting and you pick a particular times that you either are not eating or you eat less, and usually it's either skipping a meal or it may be just a reduced calorie for a day, that people that do that become more in tune with their hunger signals, and they're less likely to eat when they're not hungry because they're not depending on a cereal company as their source for information about whether or not they need to eat at breakfast time. They're listening to their own bodies, and I think that's a much better source, frankly. And I'll tell you, whenever I listen to my body, weight loss and body health and lots of things become way better. So consider the source of your information. And it's good to check out and challenge the paradigms that you've been told if they're not working. Because if they're not working, there's a reason, and you're probably not alone in that. The second thing that we need to consider the source of is our food. If we buy foods that have been highly processed and, for example, a certain number of, I don't know, dead animal parts are permitted for every can of tomato sauce, for example, it may be good to consider, is it better for me to buy the unprocessed foods and fix them ourselves? Yeah. Are we eating foods that are genetically modified? So you have one species of plant or animal combined with another species of a plant or animal, and it's combined to look like, let's say corn or soy or sugar beets. Those are three very common ones. And, the fact is we weren't designed to eat those kinds of, it's even a step beyond hybridizing them. They're just kind of a frankenfood. And we need to think about that. And the reason why they genetically modify these things is so that they can add more toxic chemicals, that some of which, we don't know how they damage us. They only studied rats for like 3 months before they released these things onto the market. So we need to consider, both for the sake of our weight management and for the sake of our health, the source of our food. Going to a farmer's market, buy something organic, plant some sprouts. Most of us can grow sprouts in our own window, in a small space. So consider the source of your food. The third thing that it's important to consider is the messages and inspiration that we hear. Whenever I was obese, I heard the message all the time. Well, 85 to 95% of people that try to lose weight do not lose weight. And if they do, 85 to 90% of them don't keep the weight off. Well, I'm here to tell you, at my very, very low point, I got down to a body mass index of 21. At my very, very high point, I got up to a body mass index of 23. But my weight has remained stable now for 5 years. I have remained not just 10% below where I was when I was obese. I've remained in my ideal weight range. But if I'd listened to the messages that are shared by medical professionals who, frankly, weren't seeing a lot of people succeed, and a lot of them are overweight anyway. Or if I'd listened to the messages of the media, or if I had listened to those kinds of people, guess what? I would still be fat. But I'm telling you, the people I listen to are people that I used to see them be overweight, and they're not anymore. Or they're people that struggle with hypothyroidism, and yet they've never been overweight in their whole lives, and they work on it every single day. And I find those people to be inspiring. I find them motivational, and they provide me with the information and the tools that I need to keep succeeding. So the third thing that we need to look at whenever we're considering the source is our inspiration and the messages that we believe. Another thing that for me is very inspiring is that I know where my hope comes from. And it's not a man, and it's not humans, it's God. And the Bible says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that, whenever it's talking about it in the Bible, it's the Apostle Paul, and he's talking about living in abundance or poverty or in any circumstance. But for me, what that means in this context is I can go to a restaurant and I can eat with my friends, and I can watch them enjoy the hamburgers and French fries. And I can do that through Christ who strengthens me while I'm sitting there with my Caesar salad or whatever else that's going to be a little bit more figure friendly. So I want you to think about considering the source of the messages that come to you. Consider those things carefully and don't let them push you around. So this is Patti Sheeley with BigFluffyFat.com signing off.